Hanlie, my obsession in life is to understand human behavior. As a result of that, I've spent quite a lot of time looking at different behavioral theories and interacting with people in both individual and group spaces. I think one of the skills that I believe that we are not practicing enough today as human beings is taking time to think. I recently was exposed to someone called Nancy Klein, who wrote a book about it and built an entire coaching methodology around it. And the more I use those techniques, which is creating time in the day to actually think through things and sift through all the information that you've gathered in order for you to get to a deeper level of thinking, is I think something that we forget to do quite a lot. What makes it valuable for us as human beings is that it will slow us down enough, and I think it will increase the texture and the quality of our lives, because we will probably make more connections, we will come up with better ideas, we will think through problems more thoroughly rather than rushing through our lives and never really going into any depth around it. And one of the contexts that I explain in which it's useful is in a coaching context, but I've also used them in meetings where the principle was around creating equality around the room, that everyone is able to think and has access to their best thinking, but one has to create the time for everyone to do that. So by structuring a meeting in a very particular way, you invite everyone's thinking into the room. You go through a process in which they have time to think through things more deeply. And at the end of the meeting, you extract from everyone their latest to best thinking. And that often also increases the quality of what people bring to meetings, because often we all feel we're in meetings and we're just rushing through it, and one person is, taking too much time, etc., etc. So this levels the playing field, brings in the equality of it, but also brings in much more value from each member that they bring, because they have had a minute to slow down in their day and actually think about a problem or a solution or something.
In this meeting context, what does that what does that look like for you? Is that asking a question and then taking 10 minutes and giving everybody a break, or what's the best way that you've seen that applied?
So there are a variety of ways, but the way that I found it worked quite well is to come up with something that one is trying to solve, or a problem or an idea that one is trying to come up with, but to make that very clear up front. So when you're setting up the meeting, to make sure that you even send that up front to all the meeting attendees. They arriving at the meeting already knowing what the subject matter is and what the expectations are of them. The idea is then to go through the room, and you can do it in a variety of ways. You can either go one by one, each person, and asking what their particular thinking is, and capture that. And the importance of this is to make sure that there is a high level of tolerance in the room, that there's no interruptions, that the person is they've got 2 minutes to say what they think their best thinking is around this particular topic. And then you can just take that away with you and work with that as a way forward. Another way which I've used it is to break people into thinking pairs. So they sit together. You will ask a question. You give them a minute or two to discuss it without interruption. So one person gets to talk about it and think about it. One person only listens. They switch around then. Same story. One person only listens, and the other person talks and thinks about it. They then thank each other and they appreciate each other at the end of that, which is a really important facet of this, because it changes people's perspective and also their body chemistry. And then after that, you go through the room again and then say, all right, given that you've now had a few minutes to think and talk and someone was listening to you, what is your best thinking now around this particular topic? Again, go through the room, equality, no interruptions, capture everyone's input. And then from there, move on, either take it away and go and work with it, or, go into a next round if there's another question or another issue that has to be brought to the table.
Great.
And I really have found that especially with very sticky or thorny issues, that's made a really big impact on the quality of information that one can extract from people who are very knowledgeable, very able to think through things. They've just never had the opportunity, or they rarely have the opportunity to have the time to think.
So what's another way that it can be practiced?
I think probably in your personal life also is to really take the time around things that you might be wrestling with.
Mm-hmm.
So to set aside 20 or 30 minutes a day, just like you would for meditation or exercise, I guess, or maybe once a week to take an hour and take a topic or something that you want to be working on. So, maybe it's like reimagining your future or whatever that may be. It's figuring out that and then sitting down and really interrogating that. The thing is, I find that it's better though if you have someone that will listen to you while you are thinking out loud. So it may be that you have a friend or a spouse or somebody that you can, or your dog maybe, I don't know. Just sit there and have someone listen to you while you are speaking. Because for some reason it helps you drop through different layers of. So that would be ideal. But even if you don't have that, then just take some time to think out loud once a week or once a day around a particular topic.
Other context, I mean, maybe it's just kind of a work context and a personal context. Is there any other way of kind of practicing or something else that might come to mind for how to put that to use?
I think it could also be very interesting when it comes to conflict resolution. So when there is tension between two people or two groups, is to use that as a technique for everyone to slow down and really think through or take perspective or understand what particular solution would be the most valuable for both groups or both parties, is to instill that in that kind of space. Because I think often when we rush through things, it's with a goal in mind without necessarily looking outside of that and really considering all the other aspects that might be playing into that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. And a challenge, if anybody that's listening right now, just the next time that X happens, I challenge you to react in this way, or how to give yourself.
Well, I'm going to flip it on its head a little bit and say, rather than you doing this, why don't you gift this to someone else to say, I will gift 20 minutes of my time in which I'm just going to listen to you think. And I'm literally not going to say anything. And it is the hardest thing to do, I promise you, is to sit there and listen to someone and not jump into solutioning or this is what I think or here's an example. To just say, I'm going to be here for 20 minutes and I'm just going to listen to you. I'm going to nod. I'm going to say, yes, what else do you think? And just prod you to really go into a nice, deep thinking space. And just try and practice that, because it's a deeply challenging thing.
I love that.